What's up, guys? Poker with a Purpose here. I've been putting this off for a long time, but today I'm going to be recording my first vlog. So things you can expect from me in this vlog. Number one, outside the box thinking and non-standard strategy. The way that I play and the way that I teach my students to play poker is through connection. So that means trusting my instincts in the moment and doing what the moment calls for, which sometimes might be the most uncomfortable thing to do. That might mean folding a big hand when the moment calls for it, and that might mean trusting myself to go with a non-hand when the moment calls for it. Ultimately, my cards don't matter. I play based on how my opponent feels about his hand, and that guides my instincts in the moment, and I fully trust them, regardless of what the strategy says is the correct thing to do. Number two, 100% accountability. Accountability means self-awareness and self-honesty. This means being fully accountable for what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. Tapping in, asking myself, what am I feeling, what am I experiencing in this moment, and giving myself permission to feel what I'm feeling. By giving ourselves this permission, it sends the signal to our unconscious that it's okay to feel this way. Poker is an emotional game. Regardless of how much you study, how much of a pro you are, where you come from, it doesn't matter. Poker is a game of emotions, it's a game of people. And you're gonna go through emotional swings in the game. And by giving ourselves permission to feel whatever comes up, it creates the flow state because it sends a signal to our unconscious that it's okay to feel this way. And then we get to play with acceptance, love, and joy, because when we accept what is within, we can accept the results on the outside. And so in my book, you'll never hear me describe things as this is a bad beat, this is a cooler, like I don't like the way this turned out, because ultimately I'm in charge of how I feel. Whatever happens on the outside is gonna happen, and I can't be in control of that. But what I can be in control of is how do I feel about this? And then I get to shift my state internally to say, I'm okay with how this turns out because I'm okay with who I am. And finally, vulnerability, joy, and gratitude. I'm embracing poker as a tool for self-discovery and for my purpose, which is to raise a collective consciousness and to empower others. Many times on my poker journey, I've gotten lost in the identity of I need to be a great player, I need to prove myself at the table, and ultimately these don't work for me. It's caused me a lot of pain in my life, and so letting go of that identity and just enjoying the game of poker is me. That's me, and that's what I want. So we get enjoyment out of it, and I get to just be really grateful that I get to live my passion, live my dream. Like, this is my dream, to play poker for a living, and I get to go inside and play a game that I love for a living. Sometimes I'll win, sometimes I lose, but ultimately this poker is a tool of self-discovery, and I use it for a higher purpose, and that's what we will be tapping into in my vlog. So we're gonna go in and play some 2-5 today. It's gonna be a short session to get started. It's gonna be a short vlog to start, but I wanted to introduce myself, get my first vlog under my belt, and let's go see what happens. Now, when I first sit down in the game, this is my time to connect within, to connect with the players, and to get settled into the game and into the flow. I'm very mindful about playing hands in the first orbit, 2 orbits, or even the first 90 minutes. I don't play hands until I'm ready to play. And that means being fully connected within, being fully connected to the other players, and having a clear picture of what I'm doing and why, and what they are doing and why. If I don't have the answers to those questions, then my hand value is irrelevant, and I'm playing in the dark. So the first hand I play is Ace-10 of diamonds on the button. This is a hand that's not necessarily a standard open for me, especially in my first 90 minutes. I chose to open it here because at this limit, the players play more straightforward. But at a higher limit, when the blinds are going to be 3-betting and barreling a lot, Opening this hand can get us in some sticky situations if we're not fully settled in. So I choose to open it here for 15, and we get 3-bet by the small blind, who is an older woman. And she looked energized, excited, present, focused. Our hand does not play well against that type of behavior, and she's going to confirm it here after we fold. Good hand. Oh, me. I had a good hand.
Oh, you had a good hand.
Ace 10 of diamonds.
No, you were deep. Good looking hand, though.
You'll routinely see me making folds where if my only plan is to hit the flop with the absolute value of my hand, I'm going to fold. A good plan is multifaceted. So hitting my hand is a good backup plan, but it's not my primary objective, as you'll see in this hand. I get King 10 in the small blind, and I've already connected to seat 9 a few times, who's a middle-aged Asian guy. And what I saw here after raising, his energy was pretty flat, and that he was kind of distracted and disconnected from the game in general. He just wasn't present. And so that tells me he's not really interested in his hand. And from what I saw about the game so far, is that everybody's playing it safe. There wasn't any money going in the turn and river. So the safe play here would have been to just play this as a call from the small blind and try to smash. I'm taking the aggression lead here, and I'm just going to barrel him off the hand unless something changes. And on this ace queen 5 flop, 2 clubs, I see that he didn't have any intensity. His energy and excitement didn't go up. So this tells me that he has a hand that he's not really excited about. So I'm going to bet a little bit small here to get some dead money on the flop. He calls. And then on the turn, 5 of diamonds turn, now my impulse was almost to check here, because I'm like, well, if he has an ace, he's not going to fold, because now it's most likely a chop. But I just have to put the pressure on him if that's the uncomfortable play for me. So we're just going to keep barreling here. I bet 275 on the turn, and we're just going to put him to the test that he's not going to call off for his last 800, 900, I think he had. And you'll see here after I bet, there's just a lot of peacocking from him, a lot of discomfort, and so that tells me that his energy is not present with the hand, and he's just not happy in general. So he's going to fold, and we're going to pick up $140 of dead money for stepping through our resistance and getting outside our comfort zone. As you saw in the last hand, aggression is going to be our bread and butter in this game. In different dynamics, we might play differently, but this is a soft, dry, passive game, and so aggression is king. So we have 3 limps here. We have Jack 7 of spades in the straddle, and this would be really easy for us to just flat or check and take a flop and try to smash something multi-way. But the range of hands that they're limping, like our flush draw could be dominated, our straight could be dominated, and this is just a opportunity to pick up some dead money. So we take down 32 bucks with aggression. And not to mention the previous hand, if there's no money going in post flop, then we don't have any implied odds to try to smash a hand. So this is why we just take down the dead money. So here we go ahead and open ace 4 of clubs in middle position. We can safely open this game because it's pretty snug. We don't have to worry about getting 3-bet in late position or having multiple callers where we have to play this hand out of position multi-way. So we get called by our friend in seat 9, and what I observe on the flop is he does this little quick check. And notice from even what you can see is that his energy is up a little bit, and it stays present with the hand. So as compared to the last hand where he was kind of all over the place when he was deciding to call, he's telling me, go ahead and bet. And so on this flop, I just decided to play it as a check back because I saw that his energy went up and he stayed focused with the hand. It's okay to play it this way. There's also a case for, again, just going with aggression and knowing there's like a ton of overcards and runouts that we can barrel him off on where he's not going to call off. But in general, we want to be barreling when they are not attached to the hand rather than when they're telling us they're attached and they're telling us to go ahead and bet, which is what I observed here. Energy up, focus up, presence up. And so what it told me was he had some type of pocket pair. Now I made a little stab on the turn because I picked up the club draw, but I decided there wasn't enough leverage to be barreling him off. So I checked back on the river and he has pocket sevens. All right. So another example of aggression being king. We have a hijack raise to 15 here, and we have a call from the button. Both casual players. Opener's a little bit, he's like a young foreigner, and the button is like an older, like a middle-aged white man. And both of their energies were flat. Both were kind of not excited. They're flat, and so this is not a pot they're going to be fighting for. We squeezed a little bit big here just to take it down. We definitely don't want to get called by both players. There is an argument for raising a little bit smaller and getting called and just knowing that we're going to barrel them off post flop. But either way, the key is that we keep stepping on the gas and putting them to the test. And this is going to pay off in two ways. One, it's going to keep building dead money. And two, eventually somebody could blow up at us and just get tired of our aggression, like what is going to happen in this hand. So in this hand, we have a limp from our friend in the hijack from last hand. And then we have a raise in the button from a young reg who lives in Vegas now, but he's from Florida. He verbally raised to 25. And then when I connected with him, his energy was pretty flat. And he was basically telling me with his eyes and his behavior, like, please don't raise. So we know what he's doing here is he's isolating the casual and trying to play a pot in position, and that's his comfort zone. So we get to step through our resistance and get out of our comfort zone, and by doing that, we take him out of his comfort zone, which is basically going to be calling to try to smash a hand and peeling to improve or hoping we get up. And so what we're going to do is just connect with him post-flop, see how he feels about his hands, and make the decision which the moment calls for. So when this flop comes, we flop middle pair. And after connecting with him, I see that he connected, but he didn't really fully settle in. And he was still telling me to slow down. So he wasn't happy about his hand. And I felt intuitively that he didn't have top pair because he would have been more comfortable with it. So I intuitively felt like I had the best hand. So on the flop, I bet 60 to target the range of hands that we are ahead of. I intuitively didn't feel like he had a flush draw because his excitement was pretty capped. He calls 60 on the flop. On the turn, his energy stayed flat and he was disconnected from the board, which tells me that he's not happy with the card. So he doesn't have a flush. Likely the deuce of spades did not improve him. So we continue for 190 on the turn for value and to protect against some pocket pairs, maybe they have a flush draw. On the river, fourth spade comes in. So we check here and he checks back and we're going to win at showdown. He said he had a worse 9. But what didn't work for me on this river was I didn't stay fully connected to him because I was feeling a lot of fears and emotions come up as a result of playing a big pot. So I didn't really check in with what I was feeling and I didn't clear it out, and that disconnected me from him. And so that means we're playing the river decision in a vacuum as opposed to connection. And then immediately after that hand, I got ace king, and I didn't record it because I was taking notes, but I got 2 streets of value versus our friend in seat 9. But also on the river decision, I made the incorrect decision because I wasn't connected to him as well. So that tells me it's time for a break. All right, guys, 90 minutes into the session, and what happens every 90 minutes is I get to take a break. So I have a routine I follow every session, and every 90 minutes we take a break. Your brain gets fried especially if you're using your conscious brain, a lot of thinking power. Your brain eats glucose, it uses up a lot of fuel and a lot of energy to keep your logical processing brain working. So if that's the brain that you're using to play, it's going to get fried. It's also good to, poker's not an active game. You're sitting down, so your energy gets stagnant. So taking a break, one, it gives the brain time to clear out all the clutter from the last 90 minutes. And then number two, we just check in with ourselves and say, what's working, what's not working. So what's working for me is presence, patience, and joy. I'm really taking time to connect with the player and to check in with what is the most aligned decision in the moment. What's also working is I'm just having fun, connecting with the players. I'm detached from outcomes. Ultimately, I'm fully trusting myself in the hands without the voice of judgment coming in and saying, well, what if this and what if that? So that's what's working. And what's not working is, the main thing is that I'm not in every hand following my process all the way through start to finish. There's a question we start with and a question that we end with. And asking those questions all the way through really makes sure that we are aligned and making the right decision. I haven't been doing that in every hand. Let's get back in there. I got an hour left of play, and then I'm meeting some friends for dinner. So let's see what happens.
The game dynamic has changed slightly since I returned. Our friend in seat 9 got replaced with a much looser middle-aged woman. She was basically open calling everything and just folding flops. So she's like very sticky pre-flop. She limps. We have our friend make it 25, and I saw that he was distracted and flat, so I make it 80 here. And we get 4-bet by a older gentleman to our left, who's basically, his excitement was through the roof, his heart was pounding, his breathing was heavy, and he shows kings. So it's just, it's going to happen sometimes, so we let it go. So now I'm really getting into the flow of trusting myself. We have our lady friend open middle position to 15. We have our friend in C1 call to 15, and both are pretty flat and not excited. So we're going to squeeze here with apparently our favorite hand from the session, King 10. Offsuit in the small blind. We get called by both players, and we're just going to trust ourselves to connect with them post flop, to take our time, and to trust ourselves. So we get the flop here of Jack 8-8, and upon connecting to them both, I see both of their energy go flat, and immediate whatever excitement and jitters from the hope of hitting hand pre-flop, just the whole air went out of the balloon. So we see bet 80, and we get folds from her and him. So we take down another pot. So now we get 9-9 in the straddle. We have two limps, a new player in seat 9, the woman moved to my right, and then our foreign friend in seat 1. So we're going to make it 50 here, build up the pot a little bit, hopefully get one to fold, but it doesn't really matter. We have a strong value hand and we trust ourselves post flop. We're going to get called by seat 9. She is the fifth fold lady that 3-bet us in the first hand of the session with ace 10 of diamonds. And we see on a flop of ace king 8 an immediate spike in energy and focus. And this is just a hand that we get to let go. We get to trust ourselves that we see what we see from the opponent. She's interested in the hand. She wants the pot. She's attached to it. And we are not. So we check. She bets 45. We're just going to take our time here to connect with her, to kind of lock in the feel of what it looks like when she's connected and attached. And then we're going to let it go. Next hand. And this is our last hand of the session. We were under the gun getting ready to pick up, and we happened to peel ace king of hearts. Would have been really easy and safe for me to just fold this here and let go and just pick up. But I decided to get zoned back in, present, and to play it through the process and with the right decisions. So we open to 25. There's no straddle. It's a little bit bigger, just to thin out the field. And we get called by 3 players. So we are 4-way to a flop. Great flop for us. King 6-5 with 2 diamonds. 4 players is a little much to connect with, or 3 players rather, but we make a c-bet here of 75, and we get called by 1, so now we're down to 1 player to connect with. I noticed he was energized and focused, but he still stayed unsettled. And what his settledness or unsettledness tells us is how comfortable he is. Is his conscious and unconscious brain on the same page about what he's doing in the hand? And if they aren't, it's going to come off as very jittery and unsettled. So we turn 2 pair here. Obviously, in a vacuum versus this player in this action, our hand is way the best hand here on the turn. But also through connection, we see that he is excited and connected, yet jittery and unsettled. So he has something that he's excited about, yet all this extra movement, peacocking movement, is telling us that he's not comfortable with what's happening. And so what we're doing here is we're just breaking down his stack into bite-sized amounts that he can call, where it makes it really easy for him to say, well, the pot is too big, I can't fold now on the river. So on the river, he has about 280 left, and he ends up folding. So this tells me that his excitement plus the jitteriness means that he had a draw. So he just wasn't willing to risk that draw on the turn. And we get max value there, and then we show ace king as a courtesy show. And we finish the session up $1,220, and we had a lot of fun.
All right, guys, that was a fun first vlog. Made a little bit of money, and you'll notice, as much as I like for the results to be first and foremost in my mind, the results are really the least important thing, because the process we use is ultimately what creates the results. And so how well we apply the process, that's ultimately the most important thing, and the results follow as a result of that. The one thing that we do at the end of the session is a cool down, and that's the same format as the break. What worked, what didn't work, and checking in with ourselves. And what we're doing is we're taking accountability for both what worked and what didn't work, and then we are rewiring our unconscious, and through repetition we're teaching our unconscious the way in which we want to play, the way that works for us, and the way that ultimately creates the best results for us. I'm going to do mine a little bit later tonight because I got to go meet my friends for dinner, but thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.